Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the 9.15 patch notes for League of Legends. So, as always, you can find timestamps in the description if you don't have time to watch the whole video. And you can also click on the little cog on YouTube and speed it up to 1.25 or 1.5 times speed if you want to listen to it a little bit faster. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the content on YouTube. Come by, check us out on Twitch. I stream every night starting around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, going till about 2 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're building an awesome community there. It's been a lot of fun. So yeah, come join the fun, ask any questions that you have. Yeah, join the community. It's a good time. Okay, let's go ahead and get started here. And just remember that I am going to do a separate tier list for supports, and I'll try to do AD carry, jungle, and maybe a few other roles as well in this patch. And I'm also doing teamfight tactics coverage as well, so I'm going to release a patch notes for that probably later today when you see this as well. And then I'm going to do tier list, meta evaluation, all kinds of stuff for that if you're interested. And we also do Total War on the channel as well if you're new. So I publish at least one episode of a legendary campaign pretty much every day. We have a ton of content for that if you're interested in that game. And some fairly high-level play and commentary. Okay. Let's go ahead and get in here. All right, so Evelynn's getting a nerf to her Wave Clear, which... I mean, I don't get it. Like, she's a 50% win rate overall. I was just looking at her. As far as I can tell, she has pretty much no pro presence, right? 2 games. I just looked at, like, I'll be honest with you, I haven't followed the pro meta. I've been trying to, like, get into a decent space in teamfight tactics so that I can do commentary on that as well. So I haven't followed pro, and I've been on vacation and stuff over the last couple of weeks, so I haven't followed pro like that much. I'm just kind of be looking at the numbers here and just talking about what I've seen in solo queue with some of these champs. But yeah, I don't get it. I mean, maybe some high level junglers were playing her. I feel like they're way more like problematic junglers. Like, yes, Evelynn is very frustrating when she's ahead. You know, once she's 6, it's very difficult to ward for her. So I'm not saying that I'm upset as a support player that Evelynn's getting nerfed, but at the same time, it's like, come on, man, there already are not like a ton of AP options floating around in the jungle. So I don't know. It seems a little weird, but I guess it is what it is. Galio, I just got gutted because you can't flash with his taunt anymore, so I don't think there's very much, unless they just make his numbers like through the roof, like insane. I don't think he's going to be seen in pro. Okay, so CDR affects his Colossal Smash now. Alright, so you can get it down a little bit. You can get it up a little bit more often, and you do a little bit more damage. A little bit more damage on the Justice Punch. But yeah, the 2 big things, the nails in the coffin from the last patch, were he can't flash stun, and he can be knocked out of his charge while he's stunning as well. It's like a Janna Tornado or any sort of displacement or stun. It can knock him out of it. So I think those 2 changes were really rough. They did give him some more damage, but he's pretty bad. I definitely would not play him as a support right now. I don't know what his win rates overall are here, but... it feels like he's definitely not in a good spot. I would imagine he has to be near the bottom, right? Yeah, actually, literally the bottom, 43% win rate. So I just wouldn't play him right now. I know that I think Tastic, who comes to the Twitch stream a lot, really loves Galio, asks about him almost every night he's there. It's like, dude, he had his time in the sun, you know, for about a year or so. He was very powerful in pro and even saw some solo queue in mid lane for a while there, but his time has gone for now. Okay, Graves getting some extra armor. This is pretty significant. This is going to allow him to be a lot safer in the early game. Yeah, even on like 3 stacks early, that's 9 extra armor. So I don't know exactly why Graves... I mean, Graves doesn't have any utility whatsoever, so he kind of has to hard carry in the jungle. And I guess he does have some bad matchups against magic dealers, but... I don't know. Graves historically has been like really oppressively good when he's good, but I guess like the items on him aren't amazing right now. I mean, he's like 49%. It's pretty good. I think this is pretty significant, especially for his early game safety with his clear, because he's already like his pushback on his attacks are already like keep him fairly safe. And I think he's pretty good against Scuttle because it displaces Scuttle every time he auto attacks it, which means I think it takes extra damage when it gets displaced. depending on how that stacks. So I'm not a Grave expert, obviously, but I think this is actually pretty good, and I think it's better than it might initially appear, just because of how much that armor is going to matter, especially in the early game. And once you stack it up a lot, even later on into the game, I think it'll be pretty important. Okay, so Karma is already like not that great in bot lane anymore. She had like a couple of patches, or I guess like one patch where she was really, really good as support. She was probably the best support. They're pretty close to it a couple of patches ago. But they basically taken back so much that they gave to her. They take away her extra movement speed. They did give her slightly more shield, and I think they increased the slow on the Q, so it was more likely that she was going to be able to land the snare on you with the W. But it's primarily because of solo lanes. So that's why like people ask me about things like Lulu and Karma and stuff like that, and it's like, well, they're pretty good, but the problem is like when they're actually really good, then they get played in solo lanes, and then they end up being oppressive. Now I don't know. I know her win rate was high. That's a pretty high win rate there. I don't know exactly what those stats are from this week. It looks like it would be something like 16-3 or maybe 15-4 based on the green and red bar there. Top lane, I think, primarily is where she was being played. So this is going to make her team fight a lot worse. So she's still going to be very impressive and pretty good early game, but like later in the game, losing 20 bonus shield with and a 0.1 ability power off of it, so it's going to be at least 30 bonus shield. It's a pretty big deal. So will this completely knock her out of the meta? I'm not sure. The thing is, she's already not that great, I don't think, in solo queue. I mean, she's not terrible. I think she's probably over 50% in the bot lane. I don't know about top. I personally don't like seeing things like Karma top or mid lane, because I feel like you need carries in those lanes right now in this environment. You need damage there. Because enchanters are still the best supports. I mean, Janna and Nami are up there. Sona's actually fell a lot further than I thought. It's 49%, so yeah, not great, not the worst, but definitely one of the worst enchanters. Probably the worst enchanter outside of Lulu, or Yumi. Wow, Lux actually fell quite a bit too. I feel like Lux is still very frustrating to play against, but maybe that's just me. Anyways, okay, fine. I guess for pro, if the champions go in 16-3 on the last patch, fair enough. Probably need to nerf it for top lane, so I guess that's all right. You don't crush Bug. Bug crushes you. I really hate that they're buffing this champion's so obnoxious to deal with as a support, especially a non-tank support in solo queue. I guess it's fine. What was... I don't remember his exact win rate. I feel like he's like 52 or something. They have done a good job balancing overall. There are not that many champions that have a 54% win rate, and most champions, I think there's a lot of champions that are like 49 to 51%, at least kind of like in that platinum level range. There are not that many outliers, so that's a sign of really good balance. That's extremely hard to do with this many champions. So I think that the game is pretty decently balanced right now. Yeah, he's like 50%, basically 49. So yeah, if we look at the overall win rates, yeah, there is literally not a single champion 54%. I can't remember the last time I've seen that. Honestly, not a single champion, regardless of how often it has played, regardless of whether it's a one-trick champion or not. There's not a single champion that is over 54%, and there's only one champion that's 53%, which is pretty nutty. Like, there's often, like, a champion somewhere, you know, that's like 55% or 54.5%. There were a few patches ago, the enchanters, like, they're, like, with the Karma Sona patch before those nerfs, there were probably, like, 4 enchanters that were over 53%. I know that Sona was definitely over it until she got nerfed. Karma was over it on that patch. And I think that Nami was very close. So, hats off to the balance team. Statistically, this is some of the most balanced I think League of Legends has been, at least at the top end. Now, at the bottom end, there's still some problems, but there's always going to be problems because some of these champs just have to be nerfed around pro. Like, Galio, Irelia, and Callista are just, like, huge problems in solo queue. They're just so, like... the gap between pro play and solo queue. Do what? Oh. So, I think overall they've done a pretty good job outside of, like, you know, the super difficult to balance champions. You know, the Ryze, the Azirs, the Irelias, stuff like that. But overall, I think it's pretty good, statistically at least, regardless of how people feel about it. Okay, LeBlanc, I really don't want to see his champion buffed. I mean, yeah, her win rate's not that great right now, but she's so oppressive. She's one of those champions ones I was just talking about that's so hard to balance correctly because there's no counterplay. Like, look, here's what they need to do, and I don't know why they haven't figured this out yet. I mean, maybe they think it would take too much fun out of her kit, but just do not let her mimic her W. It's that simple. Like, just, you can't mimic your W. Like, you cannot jump twice. Or there's a delay between when you can jump forward and when you can go back, like a 2-second delay. So, like, you can jump forward, but you can't jump forward, like, take a stab at somebody, see if you one-shot them or not. You miss, oh well, jump immediately back. I think that's just really sketchy counterplay. I mean, that does it, like, that is the fun part of LeBlanc, I guess, jumping around. So maybe there's a delay on it or something. But I just feel like being able to engage, potentially one-shot somebody from, like, 2,000 units away and then just run away and wait, like, run away instantly and then wait, like, 30 seconds and try it again. I guess with CDR, wait, like, 20 seconds and try it again. Just too much downtime. I guess they could just do the generic thing and, like, well, Taric, I guess, in this specific lane is is like 59%, but that's like booster strats. Okay, I mean, she's a super low win rate, I guess. I just don't like. I think they need to just. I know they've reworked her like 50 times, so like there needs to be something that gives with her to where, like, I don't mind the one shot. Maybe they could decrease the range on her jump also, knock 100 off of the range or something. I think delaying the time by at least like 2 seconds or something whenever you go in. So it's like it gives you enough time to land your chains and kill somebody and then go back out. But if you miss your chains, then you're vulnerable for like 2 seconds and you have to like dodge a couple of skill shots before you can go back. I think maybe that's the best one to do. And in exchange for that, give her more power. You know, if you hit your chains, you do more damage, which is what they're doing right now. So I don't know. She's just so difficult to balance correctly, but fine. They want to bring her back in a little bit more. Okay, Lee Sin, they're buffing him. I guess that's fine. I mean, Lee Sin historically is pretty much always like very, very risky in solo queue. I mean, I'm never excited to see a Lee Sin on my team unless it's like a Smurf. He's so risky. Like, there's so many bad decisions you can make as Lee Sin, and people get baited into going for the big play, going for the big, like, flash kick all the time. And he requires a super heavy snowball and just doesn't have a ton of utility later. I wish, honestly, they would take a little bit of damage off his kit maybe and give him back his attack speed slow that he used to have back in the day so that at least when he transitions into tank later, he can do something. He can go on that back line and be a bit more disruptive. Like, by lowering the attack speed, but whatever. They're giving him a little more damage. I don't think it's going to matter. I mean, maybe it gives him like half a percentage or something, but I feel like Lee is pretty good in pro, right? I guess he's like 50-50. Okay. Fine, fair enough. He's a fun champ. People like to play him. Okay, Lissandra getting a little more health. Extra damage later. That's probably fine. I'm trying to remember what they did to her to knock her out, like... I mean, I guess I can just look and see. What? Because she was, like, super meta for a long time. Aftershock obviously still works on her. They did nerf, like, Aftershock for range champion, so it's not, like, as good. I believe. They nerfed that a while ago. Oh, they increased the cooldown on the Q by a lot. Okay. So her wave clear, and they increased the cost by a lot later on. And they reduced the damage. Okay, so they nerfed her like 8 times. Okay. I don't know. They hit her wave clear pretty hard. She has, like, no presence right now, right? Yeah, nobody's... One person played her. It's probably okay. I mean, because the thing is, you were building a lot of... I think you were building a decent amount of, like, utility type of stuff on her, so you don't have a ton of AP. You know, you're going stuff like Hourglass. She doesn't have very good ratios to begin with on her ability, so she was basically just, like, an engaged tank that had wave clear in the middle, pretty much, was how people were playing her, so that's fair. Lucian, I would be a little scared to buff this guy. They're buffing his late game, though, not his early game. That's probably fair. I mean, his win rate's not great, but he can be really oppressive if he gets ahead early game, so I guess that's fine. Having a few more mobile champs that are viable in the 80 carry slot's pretty good. Okay. Okay, all of the Malphite changes. Thunderclap, cleave damage. Ooh, okay, so this might actually be a nerf for people that are not... that miscalculate. If you press it too early, you can screw it up now if you're not in range. Okay, I mean, I think he's still going to be bad. Like, the problem with Malphite is he's intended to be, like, a heavy anti-AD, you know, tank, or not tank, like, yeah, anti-AD tank. But, like, he doesn't have a lot of the things that modern tanks have. He doesn't have any percentage damage, so he's probably going to lose against any other, like, bruiser or tanks up top. And he's just, like, hard countered by Conquer or just, like, almost any sort of split pusher top lane is going to beat him at 3 items. So, like, and he's not like oppressive enough early, but they can't really add much oppression to him because he's so easy to play. Like, you know, you can't buff his Q, his seismic shard, because, like, you literally just walk up and press Q. So it's like, that's too obnoxious, like, with no counterplay. So you can't buff that. Thunderclap, you know, like, all of his stuff is just so easy, so you just can't buff him. Really, like, you can't buff his damage. They need to add, like, more skill expression, like, maybe make Seismic Shard a skill shot or something, and then that would allow them to add more damage to his kit. You know, something that they could do is just, like, I don't know, like, really give him an identity as, like, the attack speed slower, like the anti-auto attacker. So, like, maybe he could have, like, built-in thorns or something. You know, like, when his shield is up, if people damage the shield, they take a certain amount of that damage back, reflected back at them for autos. Or, like, maybe it's like a little randuince. If they attack him when his shield is up, then their attack speed gets slowed or something like that. Just something like that. Like, they just really need to make his identity like, okay, look, if you're an auto attack based champion, you're going to have a really bad time against me. But it's just like in this right now, I feel like there are better tanks. Like, yes, he is very good in team fights. There are certain comps with, like, Yasuo or something where he's devastating if he shows up. But he only has one option. Like, he shows up and he ults, and that's it. And it's like, if your AD carry can flash it, or if they get a Banshee's Veil, or you know, something like that. It just feels like there are a lot, or Black Shield, Morgana Black Shield. So he's very good at what he does. He can ult the back line if they don't know how to flash fast enough, or if they don't have a dash or something to dodge it. But that's it. It's like, if he doesn't have his ult, he's worthless, I think. So, I don't know. I would like to see them just give him a clear identity. Just give me a reason. Like, why would I ever want to play this dude over some other type of, like, engaged champion top lane or a split pusher or whatever? Just, like, I just feel like there should never be a world where Tryndamere beats this guy. Like, if you play Malphite, it should be like Tryndamere doesn't beat him. Like, that would be the metric I would look at. So whatever it is, what is going on in there? God, she's been yelling, like, non-stop for, like, 5 minutes straight. But yeah, so I mean that would be what I would use. I would say like if I was on the balance team, I would say, what do we need to do to this champion to say Tryndamere never beats this champion, right? Or just like, you know, Gnar never beats this champion. Or just like anything that's like gonna be hitting him a lot with auto attacks is never gonna beat him, and then go from there. Just make him like the unstoppable wall. Like, hey, if he's in that lane and he's got a lot of items, if Tryndamere wants to split push, he better go to another lane. Like that's what needs to be the thought process there. Even at like 3 or 4 items. Like early game, sure, but like late game, it just feels like Tryndamere just runs him over. So, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe they could make his missile speed fast, or like his ult speed a lot faster, so it's harder to flash or something. I'm not sure. Or just say, you know what, we don't want him to be top lane. Let's have him be support. I mean, I think that people ask me about Malphite support sometimes. And if they want to go that route, just give him like more attack speed slows, or like just have his shield come up more often or something. Or even just lower the cooldown on his ult. If you want him to be literally that's all he is his ult, like it should be like a 100-second cooldown or something. I don't know exactly what it is. I think it's like it's at least 2 minutes, I feel. But it's like, okay, fine. If you're going to make a champion where literally like the only thing that he does in a fight is ult, he damn well better have that ult up a lot. You know what I mean? Especially if it's something that has that much counterplay. It's like, why, you know, if we're talking support, why would we ever play Malphite over something like Nautilus? You know, because Nautilus is like guaranteed to hit his ult. I think it's on either the same or lower cooldown, and he just has more engage, like with his hook and things like that. Maybe they could make his slow more brutal. I mean, they are increasing the slow here a little bit, but maybe they could ramp it up even more. Yeah, I don't really know what the... I don't have the answer. I'm just throwing out a bunch of stuff out there that I think that they could do, but like right now, yeah, 130 is way too much on a champion where it's like almost literally his entire identity is this ult. Maybe they could take this cripple up to like 70 or something. I don't know. So anyways, I don't think it's going to matter, but I think that he just needs a clear identity. I just think either if he's top lane, there's never a world where Tryndamere beats him. If it's like even players, if they have to give him more skill expression, that's fine. Or if he's bot lane, they need to give him a little bit more utility. Just replace his W. It's awful. Just give him like one more piece of CC or something, and maybe he could be bot lane. Okay, Poppy. Movement speed. Great. Probably not going to matter. I mean, I think she's picked some top lane as a very specific counter pick to like Riven or Yasuo. She has a terrible win rate in pro. That looks like that's probably 2 and 10. I get asked about Poppy all the time. I mean, I know people really love this champion. Like, just the short, stout champion with a lot of armor. People just love it, man. Any fantasy game, if it's Poppy, if it's dwarfs or whatever, people love it. So I know there's a big fan base for this champion out there. At least there is on my channel. So I would like to see her be more useful. Kind of like Malphite, it's like, well, she's got one thing, basically, that she does, which is her W, which is very cool, but it's on a long cooldown. So once again, just decrease the cooldown. I think they need to do that a lot with a lot of champions. It's like, okay, if this is their identity, if they have one ability, which is the major reason why you're picking this champion, it needs to be on a very low cooldown so you can do it more often, especially if the rest of their kit is pretty lackluster. And that's really it with Poppy. It's like, straight up, yeah, she's got a lot of really cool things, like against things like Thresh or Leona, Rakan. There's a lot of, like, in theory, very good matchups for Poppy based on her W, right? That's the thing that pins people, right? But the problem is the thing is 24 seconds. Like, does it really need to be 24 seconds early? Like, this is her most cool thing that she does, right? She gains movement speed and stops people from dashing. How long is that for? 2 seconds. So they could increase the time on it maybe to 3 seconds. Hey, what they could do for stuff like this is if they, if you successfully stop somebody from moving, so if you do this skillfully, if you block movement with it, then it lowers the cooldown. Okay, they've done this with Thresh, and it's worked out beautifully with Thresh, and it makes Thresh's hook feel very good. It's like if you actually hit the hook with Thresh, you get a much lowered cooldown, but if you miss the hook, it's a long cooldown. So that actually feels really good on Thresh. You know, in team fights, late game, if you're hitting all of your hooks, it feels like it's up all the time. But if you're missing your hooks, then it sucks. That would add some extra skill expression too. So steadfast presence, you know, if you block somebody's movement speed with it, maybe it refunds whatever the number would be. 50% of the cooldown or something. Maybe that's too much. But like, I feel like this needs to be the centerpiece of her kit. It's the coolest thing about her. It's the thing that makes her unique. She's anti-movement. There aren't that many champions that are like severe anti-movement. And I think that could give her a very good niche. Now, I say this very reluctantly because I love Rakan, and he's one of my favorite champions, and this champion hard counters Rakan if that W's up. So, you know, it's annoying. But I'm just saying, if they want her to be relevant, they need to decide, is she top lane or is she support? Most of the time. But either way, I think that they should lower the cooldown on this. I mean, this should go from like 18 to 14 or something minimum, I think is what they should standardize that to. I feel like most abilities that are like this, that are like decent utility abilities, like if something is 24 seconds, it damn well better be very, very game breaking. Like Tom Kinch's W or something like that. It's like a free Quicksilver Sash. Even that's only 20 seconds, right? So I just really think on a basic ability, 24 seconds is just absurd. And like even Blitz's hook, like level 1, I think is like 20 seconds. I don't think anything should be longer cooldown than the hooks, really. Like as a basic ability. Not many things anyways. So anyway, so I mean she's tanky, but she just doesn't have a lot of range for bot lane. She has okay wave clear with like hammer shock and things like that. Now Poppy has been a problem in the past, so they are very careful with her because there have been metas where she was like really OP. I think it was like season 5 for like a year or something like that with her. But anyways, so okay, she gets some extra movement speed that's going to allow her to stick to people. But yeah, I think that's what they could do. That would be a really feels good. And I'm not sure if it would be that ultra, you know, power shifting in the top lane, but it would make her feel a lot better. Okay, Qiyana. Now, even if she cast it, her E within range at the time, Audacity shouldn't damage enemies if they're visually out of range by the time it lands. Okay, so you can flash it now. Wow, and they're increasing her cooldown by 20 seconds. Okay, pretty big nerf. The champion's terrible in solo queue. I guess... Is she good in pro? Looks like she's like 50-50 in pro. 9-9, maybe 10-8 or something. So, like, not that over the top. I don't know. I haven't even really taken the time. Like, I analyzed her abilities and she got released, but it's like reading a freaking novel to try to figure out what she does. So it's tough to say. She's got I mean, dude, she's got a 41% win rate. It's like, come on. I mean, I guess that's in the jungle. What is it overall? I guess it's a little higher. I mean, she's just like super high skill cap. I guess. I mean, do you really need to nerf her? Maybe they're nerfing her for like Faker or caps or something like that, but I don't know. It seemed like she wasn't that much of a problem. Certainly not in solo queue at most ELO ranges, and even in pro statistically, didn't look like that big of a deal, but okay. Rumble. Why are they nerfing this champ? This is across all regions, by the way. Like, I'm literally looking at every single region here. It's a great website, gol.gg, gamesofleague.gg. You can see every single region that was played. And I was just looking at last week. So, like, the most recent stuff. I mean, I guess he was 8-1. So maybe there's like like I said, I haven't been following pro, but maybe there's a really good team that's been abusing him middle. Like, I know he's a good pick into Akali, because his flame still hits her while she's in Shroud, and like so does his ult, so does his E. So he's like really pretty good against invisible champs and specifically against Akali. So I'd never see him in solo queue, like never, like maybe 1 out of 50 games I see Rumble. I used to love Rumble top lane. I mean, he's a really fun champ. I like the heat system. I like the design. I wish they would make another heat system champion. I wish they would like maybe Blitzcrank or something on heat. I don't know. But just like another robot champion, but they just really, I don't know. I think certainly T designed him. He was back in like very late season 1. He was really, I would say the first champion that I like hardcore mained, and then he got nerfed to crap. I mean, his level 1 Q does do a ton of damage, but it's a 10-second cooldown. Back in the day, it used to be 6. So that's rough. But I think what they did with him, I mean, I can see, didn't they change his, he's got 345 move speed, which is pretty good, and pretty high health. But I think back in the day, they, like, buffed his shield and his harpoons and nerfed his flame spitter. Okay, so back on 9-7, he gets a little bit of extra movement speed, and his cooldown is lowered. Okay, 100 seconds. That's exactly what they should do with something like Malphite, because, like, Rumble really is reliant on his ult a lot of times. He's a teamfight champion. Should be 100 seconds, if that's, like, a huge part of their identity. So they're nerfing the shield strength by a lot, 20 early. Because you only get, I believe you only get 1 point in that early. So that's a pretty massive hit to his trading early on. I don't remember the cooldown on it. I mean, I can look here in a second, but... New effect. Now triggers effects that are triggered by .AoE abilities? Was it not triggering Leandri's? I don't know. Okay, this is where they increased the shield on 8-12. So like a year ago, they increased the shield. The AP ratio was up. I mean, I don't know. I don't get it, right? What's his win rate? $51. I guess seems random. I feel like there are way more like other problematic champions than Rumble out there. And the empowered shield loses 30. I guess. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't seem... It seems really random to me. Like, especially if you want there to be counter picks to Akali. I mean, look at it. Like, Akali's much more problematic. She's been played 22 times in pro, even after all the nerfs to her. She's been played 22 times, and it looks like her win rate last week was probably 70%, 60 or 70%. Rumble does have a high win rate, but he's only picked 8 times, probably against Akali. I mean, Rumble damn well may have been the only champion who beat Akali consistently. Overall, you know, he's only 42%. He's not even getting played mid, like some. What's he getting played into? Akali. I don't know. I don't get it, but whatever. I don't like that because I feel like he's a very... There are not very many top laners, like champions that can go top that are like AoE magic team fighter champs that are common. I don't think. I could be wrong about that. I'm coming off the top of my head. I mean, Victor was up there for a little bit. I just feel like he's a very unique champion, and he has kind of a unique niche in that he's like sort of a magic bruiser, and there aren't that many magic bruiser type of champs out there that like are not assassins but do steady magic damage and are like sort of tanky but not really. Like, I think he's very unique. So I don't like to see Rumble getting nerfed, but okay. Because like I was saying, it feels like he has very low presence in solo queue. He is good when I see him in solo queue a lot of times, because usually it's people that play him a lot. But it just seems like in pro and in solo queue there are way like bigger balance issues than Rumble. So I don't know. Maybe he made a splash in a very like key LCS game or something. And maybe a bunch of pros cried about him. Okay, the Soraka buff. Now, this is one that I think actually could potentially change support meta bot lane a little bit. 15 extra damage on her Q is a very, very big deal. I know they took that off, but 15 extra damage is a lot early game. So if you can consistently land that That could potentially be good. You know, I was just thinking this morning when I was thinking about this tier list, I was reading these notes, I was like, what about, like, Phase Rush Soraka? It seems really bad, but, like... actually, let me do runes here real quick. But, like... So, Soraka's big problem is that she's very vulnerable, right? So, she gets caught out, and she can be killed. Now, she does get movement speed when she's moving towards allies or away from allies. I guess it only lasts for 3 seconds. It gives you 75% slow resist. I'm just thinking, like, I don't know, if you landed that, like, that would allow you to run away from ganks, like, a lot more reliably, maybe. If they're, like, rolling up and, you know, you've... Okay, so it has to hit the same target. But, like, if the enemy, like, jungler's rolling up and you auto-attack them once and then just hit them with the Q and silence them with your E, then, like, your Q movement speed, it'd give you a lot of movement speed when you're running away, and then the phase rush would proc and you'd be able to run even faster. So I'm just wondering, like, how consistently... Because, like, if you hit your Q, you're going to be able to hit your E if they don't flash it, I guess. But, I mean, even if they flash it, you could still just auto-attack them one more time and silence them. And still get your phase rush to get away. But the question is that worth getting rid of Aerie? Probably not, but, I mean, it's interesting to think about. I have seen more and more champions going away from Aerie lately. Like, you're seeing more and more, like, enchanters taking things like Aftershock or taking things like Guardian. Like, we're seeing like things like Guardian Janna. It's a lot more common. Guardian Lulu. You know, Lux is either taking Comet or Aftershock a lot of times. So, I don't know. So, the thing about Aerie is, you know, late game, it does give a really nice shield, and it does scale really well with plus healing and shielding. But if you're also auto-attacking the enemy, and, like, you're landing Qs and things like that in fights... Like, there's a decent chance that your Aerie is pretty much going to be wasted on damage late game. Because, you know, doing an extra 40 damage or something that's going to get blocked, really not even 40, probably closer to like 30 damage, it's going to get blocked in the late game, realistically, is not going to be that much, right? Now, getting the shield, getting like a 70 shield with, you know, ability power and stuff like that every time you heal, yeah, that's really OP. But, like, if you're landing the Qs and the autos... I think a lot of time most of us are just not really paying attention to where Aerie is in fights, right? Like, you're not going to say, hold on, I'm going to hold this auto attack because my heal has 0.25 seconds left. So I want to make sure I get this heal off before I auto attack or Q again, right? I mean, most of us, like, there's so much going on in a team fight. You're not going to play around specifically and track Aerie and do those calculations. I know I don't. Maybe I would if I was a much better player, but, like, it just feels like a lot of Aerie probably gets wasted in team fights on just random crap, like you landing autos or Qs or silences on people or whatever. So maybe, like, in a team fight, you only get like 50% of those actually go towards shields. And some of those shields could also be wasted, right? Versus if you had something like Phase Rush, then maybe that would allow you... It would definitely allow you to get away from ganks a lot easier, which is one of her big problems, not only in lane, but when you're trying to just go out in the world and, you know, get some vision on stuff, you know, ganks are a real problem for Soraka. So that would help you out. And then, like, even in team fights, you know, that could help you run away from stuff, maybe. I don't know, or maybe going, like, Guardian on her is better. That would also give you some movement speed. I don't know. But either way, I think that this definitely helps. This will allow you to harass a lot more in the early game with Soraka, which is going to be solid. Okay, Swain, extra range on his Q. I feel like the Swain changes, I thought it might actually shake up top meta a little bit, and, like, he could be pretty good top, but almost every Swain that I've seen is pretty bad. In the top lane, yeah, he's still 48%. It's just not, like, you know, they're trying to make him into another, like, AP brawler, but he's just not that good right now, and they're nerfing Rumble, so it's that type of champion, just a sustained AP damage brawler. It's just not that good right now. But I think it's a cool niche. I think that should be an option, but doesn't seem to be that good unless I'm forgetting some stuff. I mean, I guess if you're counting things like Rise, although I think he's more Assassin right now than Brawler, but anyways, okay, good change. He probably needs it. I've heard of people asking me about, like, support Swain. I don't know about that. I'm skeptical of that. I'd have to see it. I mean, the hand thing sounds good. I haven't personally played against it any on the last patch, but, you know, maybe it could work. This will help. We'll see. I'd have to try it out. Okay, Syndra, another dangerous champion, kind of like LeBlanc. I think Syndra has a little bit more counterplay to her than LeBlanc because Syndra, like, is at least riskier from, like, ganks and flanks. If you just dodge, if you either flash or dash around her stun, usually you can kill her. Yeah, they're giving her a little bit more damage. I'm not really sure why. Maybe there are certain champions that she counters that are dangerous in the meta right now. Like, maybe she's good against things like Azir. I know that historically, if you don't have a dash or a way to get on her, then she's one of the best, like, mid-range mages, if she's really good at hitting that stun. So maybe they want her in the meta to try to counter things like the Corki and the Azir. I don't know why Corki's going off so hard. 50%, everyone's just playing Corki. I'd have to, like, watch Pro and see. I mean, it looks like the same kinds of items, but maybe some champions that were really good against him aren't around anymore. So maybe that's why they're trying to introduce Syndra, hoping that that can counter Corki. I mean, it will force him to get a Hex Tech, but or what, a Hex Drinker. But maybe, I mean, yeah, I could see Syndra being pretty good into, like, Azir, Sylas, and Akali. Okay, I guess that's fair. Vayne now does 150 damage, percent of condemns damage. Now, you don't put any points in this, usually, so it's probably not that much. And it deals some of the damage instantly. Oh, it's not going to show me the picture. I was hoping I could just type in Vayne there. Like, the portraits are huge. You would think I could find it, but sometimes the alphabet's hard. Hashtag English teacher. Okay. So total damage, 125. You know, that level 2, though, if you can tumble and get a condemn into a wall, like if you, you know, you have a hook or something on your team, you can find the condemn in the wall. That's actually quite a bit early level, 125 for a level 1 ability. So that could give her a decent all-in with something like a Thresh, Blitzcrank, you know, anything that can really force fights, especially if you can get on, like, the support in the bush or something and then get them into the wall. That's some pretty big damage early. So that's all right. And then now if you're trying to, like, last hit under tower, basically, with Condemn, then it's going to make it a lot more likely that you're going to proc that third Silver Bolt so that you can get the kill on it. So that's nice. You know, like the other champions that I've said before, like, I think on the 1-point wonder, just lower the cooldown on this. Like, would it really be that tough to, like, take this to 16 to 12? Like, so that her Condemn is up maybe twice a fight? I mean, she doesn't get any CDR. Or if you pin somebody into a wall, maybe your Condemn, you get a 50% cooldown on the Condemn. You know, would that be so bad? So, I don't know. I mean, they have that cooldown because they only want you to be able to do it every now and then. But I think that would be a really cool way to help her. I mean, she already has a lot of self-peel with her rolling around. It's really hard to balance Vayne in general, but she's very, very rarely played in pro, and she's very rarely over 50% in solo queue. So I think you can afford to give her some power that's not just raw numbers on her ult or on her Q, which is how they usually balance her. Is they're like, okay, let's take some damage away from her Q, or let's put some damage on her ult, or let's take some damage away from her bolts, or whatever. It's like, how about you just give her a bit more utility with, like, Condemn? They did give her more utility with the invisibility and, like, the tumble duration on that, and that was OP until they nerfed her a lot. So that's fair. That's a fair critique, but I don't know. Okay, sure. I don't think it's going to matter that much, but, you know, the level 2, maybe. It might. That's a good chunk of extra damage at level 2 if you can find the pin. Xerath. Now, this is really dangerous because I feel like Xerath is not, like, bad. He's just not played. I feel like he crushes a lot of mid-mages if you're very good on him. I know he's obnoxious as hell to go. And so he's like 50%. He's super obnoxious to play against bot lane. Like, he's one of the most oppressive mages out there because if you don't gank him, he's just going to win the lane. I don't know. It's very dangerous. Make his range 5,000 at level 6. Yikes. I mean, that's a big difference. Like, you could definitely, like, influence fights from, like, halfway up the river from that. So if you're a mid laner, you could start throwing some bolts bot lane. What's the cooldown on that anyways? I don't think it's that long, right? Like 2 minutes tops. Okay, minute 30. Or 130. So 2 minutes and 10 seconds. Man, it does a hell of a lot of damage. Like, if you hit all of that 600 damage, like, that almost literally will take off, like, 70% of an enchanter's health bot lane. I mean, he's very skill expressive. He's one of the hardest champs to play in the game because every single ability is a skill shot. And if you miss, he's terrible. But he can just keep throwing, too. He does get mana back on his Arcano Pulse. But he can just keep chucking these, like, his abilities, too. And eventually he's going to hit you with stuff. And when he's ahead, like, just very little counterplay, especially if you have any peel on your team. So, yeah, I mean, maybe they're trying to introduce him into pro to beat up other mages. I don't know. He's so dangerous. Like, he has really good wave clear, really good range, like, very good damage, very good team fight damage, good sieging, effectively good roaming with this, like, cooldown on his ult. He's just, like, it's really hard to hit the stuff. But, I don't know. I'm very sketchy, like, skeptical of buffing him, but okay. Will he not, like, you know, he be, like, super OP bot lane? Probably not, but he's oppressive. He really is. If you have something like a Jhin with him, Jin's disgusting with him. But anyways, okay. Victory, defeat banners. Okay. This kind of pisses me off. Why? Like, I like the Legacy Cursor, man. I don't like that new garbage. I've been looking at that Legacy Cursor for like 10,000 games or something since Season 1. Like, why get rid of it? Is it really taking up that much space on the servers? I mean, maybe they want to standardize it or something, I guess, for, like, old school streamers like me. They just don't want people to be confused watching it. I don't know. Yeah, but you can keep the VHS player. Like, I know plenty of people that still have a VHS player. Or, like, old crap because it's cool. Like, why not? It's a relic of the past. I don't know. That's kind of like just one of those why. So I'm going to have to get used to the new cursor, I guess. I just think it looks terrible. I mean, not that the old one was awesome, but it's just, the new one just feels like it has no character. The old one with the little hand, like the gauntlet, it at least looked kind of cool. Okay. I don't think any of the bug fixes matter, as far as I can tell. I didn't read those beforehand, but I'm not seeing anything that massive here. Clean cuts now apply the proper number of electrocute stacks based on the number of basic attacks. Okay, you don't take electrocute on her typically. Okay, so there was some weird stuff with electrocute, I guess. Okay, that's going to be it. So overall, like, how is this going to impact, like, solo queue meta? Graves might be a little bit better in the jungle. I'd expect him to gain, you know, maybe 1% or 2% off of this. So that's significant. Karma's going to get worse, probably down 1% here. Kha'Zix, maybe 1% higher, 0.5%. Leblanc, probably not going to matter. Not a lot of people play her. Lee, probably not going to matter. Most of these I don't think are going to rock the boat in solo queue that much. The Rumble thing might bring him down like a percentage. Soraka, I think, is the biggest one here. I think that's going to bring her up maybe like up to 2%. I think that's actually a really big deal because that's a lot of damage early game. If you can consistently land those Qs, Maybe you can go something like Guardian Soraka, or like I said, Phase Rush. I mean, I know that sounds stupid, and I probably won't do it, but like, if you could find a way to just make her more safe, that'd be nice. But I think that's pretty much it. Maybe Vayne is a little bit better in some comps early on. Xerath might be another big one that gets, but that's like very like specialist kind of. So I think most people aren't going to play. So I don't think it's going to matter that much for solo queue. Like some stuff might matter, but overall, I don't think it's going to make that big of a splash. And they said it wouldn't, and I think that's probably true. Anyways, that's going to be it. Thank you very much for watching. As always, I appreciate it. Come check out the stream. Starts around 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Twitch every night. We'd love to have you. It's a wonderful, very chill community. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Come follow on the Twitch. If you have a free Twitch Prime, you want to support the content, you really love the channel, you like learning some stuff or, you know, participating in the lively conversation, feel free to drop that as well. But yeah, that's going to be it. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.